Welcome back to Poison Pose. In this video, we are going to learn the lesson from Standard 10 Samacheer Kalvi Unit 4 Prose, the Attic. The attic has a question for you. It is natural for human beings to make mistakes. When we realize our mistakes, we should try to rectify them. If you get a chance to rectify your mistake or pay back for it, what would you do and how would you correct it? I hope you can just pause the video for a few seconds, think and ponder, and then continue the video. This lesson was written by Satyajit Ray. Satyajit Ray was born in 1921 and he lived till 1992. He was an Indian filmmaker, screenwriter, graphic artist, music composer, and author. He was born in Kolkata. He authored several short stories and novels meant primarily for young children and teenagers. He revived the children's magazine Sandesh, which his grandfather had started in 1913, and edited it until his death in 1992. Ray was more interested in writing rather than filmmaking. His stories have been translated in Europe, the United States, and many other countries. Ray received many awards, including 32 National Film Awards by the Government of India, notably the Padma Bhushan in 1965 and the highest civilian honor, Bharat Ratna, shortly before his death. He was such a proud human being. Let's get into this lesson. Aditya and I were returning from the site of our new factory at Didaganj. We were driving along National Highway 40. We had reached a point where the road bifurcated. If we drove 10 kilometers along the road that branched off to the right, we would reach Brahmapur. I asked Aditya whether he was interested in revisiting the place of his birth, which he had left after he had passed the matriculation exam from the local school to continue his studies in Calcutta. This paragraph talks about two people, Aditya and his friend. These two people, they went out searching for a site for their new factory. And on their way back, when they were on the National Highway 40, NH40, they reached a point where the road bifurcated, which means to divide into two separate parts. The road has divided into two parts, two different roads from a single road is divided. And each path take to different destinations. So they stand in a place where the road divides into two. If we drove 10 kilometers along the road that branched off to the right, we would reach Brahmpur. Now, here Aditya was asked a question. The narrator asks Aditya whether he was interested to revisit his place of birth. Here goes a flashback. Aditya has left his native place as soon as he completed his matriculation exam from a local school, and he went to Calcutta to continue his studies. When I left our ancestral house 29 years ago, the house was almost 200 years old, recollected Aditya. I doubt if even the school building, which may have undergone many changes, will be recognizable anymore. Trying to revive old childhood memories may prove disappointing. But he said he wished to visit the tea shop of Nagin uncle, if it still existed, and have a cup of tea there. So we took the turning to the right and decided to drive to Brahmapur of which Aditya's ancestors were once the zamindars. Here, now, Aditya says that he has left his ancestral house, which means the home owned and preserved by the same family for several generations. Here it also says that Aditya's ancestors, that is his generation, his grandfather, his grandparents, his great grandparents, they were zamindars. Once they were zamindars of that place. So it is almost 29 years that he has left his house, his native place. And he also gives another information that his house, the time that he left before 29 years, it was 200 years old. It was such an old building. He also says that it is not so good to go back to his school and to see the school because it would have undergone many changes. And he also says that he will not be able to recognize most of the things that he had seen in his childhood. And he says that trying to revive old childhood memories may prove disappointing. He says if he goes there to look at his school or visit his school again, it might be a disappointing one because there would have been a lot of changes since it's a very long time that he had been to that place. He says that Nagan Uncle's tea shop, if only it existed there still, I would like to have a cup of tea there. This is one of a picture of ancestral house, the oldest houses that we would say. Zamindars means landowners, like in the previous slide that we saw, zamindars. Aditya's family, they were once zamindars, right? Zamindars means a landowner, especially one who leases his land to tenant farmers. They own a lot of land and they would give their land for lease for the farmers to grow crops because farmers, they were poor, they did not have the land on their own. All these zamindars soon after or even during the period of British control over our country, these zamindars, they had a lot of land which the British gave them, and these people, they gave it for lease for the farmers to grow crops. So the zamindars owned a lot of land, so they were wealthy people in those days. Aditya's father had left the ancestral home and moved to Kolkata, where he had set up his own business. After his death, Aditya was looking after it, and I was his friend and business partner. It was the month of Magha, that is January to February by the English calendar, the middle of winter. By my watch, it was 3:30 in the afternoon. The sun was soothing. On either side of the road were paddy fields as far as the eye could see. Harvest was over and there had been a good crop that year. Now, this paragraph picturizes the place. Okay, Aditya and his friend, they are the friend is the narrator. They are getting inside the village, and as they are going inside, the narrator, he explains, he gives a lot of information about Aditya's family. Aditya's father, he left his that old home where they lived in Brahmapur, and they have moved to Kolkata, where he had Aditya's father had his own business. After Aditya's father was dead, Aditya was taking care of the business, and his friend was his business partner. That is the narrator, the one who is traveling along with Aditya. He is he is his friend and also the business partner. And that was the month of Magha, that is the harvest month. With the English calendar, it is between January, mid of January till mid of February, maybe, and it is the middle of winter months. And as they were traveling, it was 3:30 in the afternoon, almost evening, and the sun was soothing. Soothing means it is not very hot, The sun was calm and comforting, not very hot, not very cold. So it was so soothing, comfortable. On either side of the road were paddy fields. There were a lot of farm field on either side, and it was beautiful for the eyes to watch. And he says, as far as the eye could see, there were a lot of paddy fields on either side of the road. Harvest was over. Can you see the picture? The soothing sun. It's not very hot, it is not very cold, soothing. Getting back to the story. After about 10 minutes, we came to the local school. Beyond the iron gates were the playing field and the two-storied school building. We got down from the car and stood in front of the gate. I asked Aditya whether everything was still the same. He replied that everything had changed. Our school used to be one storied and a new building has come up, which wasn't there. Now it is about 10 minutes now. They have reached the school. They are standing in front of the iron gates where the playing field, that is the ground, the school ground was there. Straight to that, there was a big iron gate, and the school building was two-storied school building. Now the car stood in front of the gate, and the narrator, the friend, Aditya's friend, is asking Aditya, look at your school. Do you see any change, or is everything still same? So Aditya says, no, everything has changed. My school used to be just one storied building, and there's a no new building that has come up, which wasn't there already before 29 years. This is one storied building, that is only the ground floor. One storied building means only ground floor. Now that has become two storied building, which means the ground floor and the first floor. So the school has developed from just one the ground floor. It has moved on to a lot of children have joined, and that is almost 29 years, right? So two storied building. Now it's a big school right now. One storied means having only one floor. Were you not a good student? I asked. Yes, but my position was always second, he replied. We decided to go and have tea at Nagin Uncle's tea shop, which stood next to grocery shop and opposite a temple dedicated to Lord Shiva. Soon we caught sight of Nagin's tea cabin written on a signboard over the shop. The owner of the shop, now over 60, a little rustic in appearance, with his white, neatly combed hair and clean look, was same as before. He was wearing a dhoti and a blue striped shirt that could be seen from under a green shawl. Here, after describing about the place and all that, now Nagan Uncle's tea shop and Nagan Uncle is described over here. Aditya's friend is asking, were you not a good student when you were studying here in this school? Aditya says, yes, I was, but my position was always in the second. I was never in the first place. Now they have decided that was their plan, right? They wanted to go to Nagin Uncle's tea shop and have a cup of tea. So that is the reason they have come to visit this place. So they decided to go and have a tea in Nagin Uncle's shop. Now here, this is the picturization of how Nagin Uncle's shop is. Nagin Uncle's shop was next to a grocery shop. Grocery shop means the shop where we buy all the necessities for our house, all little things, not a very big supermarket, but a small shop. And there was also a temple, a Lord Shiva's temple was there, opposite to Nagin Uncle's tea shop. So soon we caught sight of, they say that they caught sight of that Nagin's tea cabin, the big signboard, the name board which was written on top of the shop. They saw that and they went inside. As they were nearing the shop, they saw the owner of the shop. The owner of the shop was now over 60 years. He was almost 60 plus. A little rustic in appearance. What do you mean by rustic? Rustic means a little old, an old man who has most of this village appearance, right? Countryside appearance. So such thing, such an appearance is called as rustic in appearance. So this man was 60 plus, and he was standing there with a rustic appearance, with his white neatly combed hair. His hair was completely white and it was neatly combed, and he looked so clean. He was very clean. Even though he's working in a tea shop, he was looking very clean, same as before 29 years, how he was clean and he used to have everything clean. The same way he was looking very clean. He was wearing a dhoti and a blue striped shirt, and he also had a green shawl around his shoulder. So this blue striped shirt was seen under the shawl. Not recognizing Aditya, he asked us where we had come from. The other Ganj, Aditya replied. We are on our way to Kolkata. A little surprised, Nagan uncle asked why we were there. To have tea at your shop, said Aditya. Certainly. Besides tea, I have biscuits and savories. Give us 2 naan khatais each. We sat on 2 tin chairs. There was only one other customer sitting at a corner table, neither eating nor drinking tea, but sitting with his head bent as though he were sleeping. Addressing him as Mr. Sanyal, Nagan uncle reminded him to go home, as it was already 4 p.m. Other customers would soon be coming. Addressing us, he said, with a wink in his eye, a little hard of hearing, cannot see well either, but he has no money to buy spectacles. Now they have entered inside Nagan uncle's tea shop. Nagan uncle did not recognize Aditya. It's quite a long years, is it? 29 long years. So Aditya must have been a very small boy when he was there in Nagan uncle's shop, and now he has grown very old. So he was not recognized by Nagan uncle. So Nagan uncle is asking, why are you here? Where are you from? And all the replies are given. We are from the other country and we are on our way to Kolkata, and all the details are given. Nagan uncle is asking you, why are you here? Why you are on your way to Kolkata, and why have you come on your wrong route? Why you come this side? So Aditya said, just to have a cup of tea from your shop. So Nagan uncle is happy now. He said he feels that some customer has come to his shop just to have a cup of tea, that too from a very far distance. So he says that not only tea, beside tea, I have a lot of biscuits and this and that, and he's marketing over there for the shop. Now Aditya is asking, give us 2 naan katais. What is naan katais? Those are delicious, light and crisp eggless cookies made with flour, ghee, cardamom powder, and sugar. Looks like biscuits, but they're actually cookies, which is sold in a tea shop. Moreover, like a butter biscuit, maybe. Fine. Those are naan katais, which is sold in the northern part of India and Pakistan, places like that, in the northern side. So these two men, they sat on 2 tin chairs. There was only one other customer sitting in the corner of the table. He was neither eating nor drinking, but he was sitting quietly, bending his head down, as though he was sleeping. Now Nagan uncle said that this, addressing him as Mr. Sanyal. His name was Mr. Sanyal. Nagan uncle was reminding him to go home because he didn't even know that he has to go home, maybe out of his mind. Okay. So Nagan uncle said, reminded him to go home because it was already 4 p.m. and all the other customers might be coming. As it was evening, customers come to have tea. And he gave a wink in his eye to these two men, and he said he cannot hear, a little hard of hearing, cannot see as well either. So he cannot see properly, his eyesight is gone, he cannot hear properly, and he don't even have money to buy specs. So he don't even have money for that. From his reaction to this speech, I began to wonder whether Mr. Sanyal was not a little crazy as well, because suddenly he stood up, stretched himself, raising his lean right arm, and with eyelids dilated began to recite a poem by Tagore, Panraksha. keeping of a promise. Having recited the poem, he left the place, making the gesture of namaste with his hands to nobody in particular. I noticed a sudden change in Aditya's expression and asked him the reason for it. Without answering me, he asked Nagan uncle who the gentleman was and what he did. Nagan uncle replied, Sasanka Sanyal. What can be done? He leads a cursed life, gone crazy. Now, here, there goes on a very big conversation. Nagan uncle asks Sanyal to leave home, and he also says he is unable to talk or unable to hear and he is unable to see properly. So, Aditya felt that he must be a little crazy because suddenly, as soon as Nagan asked him to leave, he stood up, he stretched himself, raised his lean right arm, and with his dilated ears, dilated means wide open eyes, he was opening his eyes wide open, looking at these two men, and he started to recite a poem written by Tagore, Panraksha, which means keeping of a promise. There is a poem written by Tagore. So he started to recite that poem. And as he was reciting, he left the place, making gesture of namaste. As he was bowing down and saying namaste to nobody in particular, means when he was bending down to say namaste, there wasn't anybody who was standing in front of him. So he must be a little crazy, right? So Aditya was asking, Aditya was triggered. Aditya wanted to know who this fellow was because it is his native place, right? He might know people over there. So he asked Nagin uncle who this gentleman was, and he said, Sasanka Sanyal, which, and he also feels pity for Nagan uncle, feels pity for Sasanka Sanyal because he lives a cursed life. Here there's an incident which happens where this Sanyal, he sold all his land, his property and everything to get his only daughter married. And it was in the previous year that he lost his wife and his son. So wife and son died last year, and he had only one daughter. To get that daughter married to a nice person, he sold the total property, his land, all that he had, sold everything and gave it to his daughter for his daughter to get married. Now Aditya is asking, where does he stay? So if he has sold everything, where does he stay then? He stays with a friend of his father's, Jogish Kibiraj. Sasanka comes here, has tea and biscuits, and always remembers to pay, having an acute sense of self respect. But how long things will remain like this? I don't know. Having paid our bill and ascertained the location of Jogesh Kibiraj's house, we got into the car. Aditya was at the wheel. He expressed the wish to visit his house. So you do want to see your house after all, I said. It has become essential to do so, Aditya replied. His nerves seemed overwrought for some reason. We soon reached the house, which was surrounded by high walls. Even from the ruins, we could easily imagine how grand it must have been once upon a time. Now, when Aditya asked where Sasanka is staying now, Nagan uncle said Sasanka is staying with his father's friend. That is Jogesh Kibiraj. The father's friend, Sasanka's father's friend was Jogesh Kibiraj. Since Sasanka has no one, his father's friend is taking care of him right now. His name is Jogesh Kibiraj. And uncle also said that he comes here to the tea shop to have tea and biscuits every day. Even though he acts like he is a little crazy and all, he never forgets to pay the bill for whatever he has. But Nagan uncle feels sad for Sasanka because he says that how long things can remain just like that. Having paid a bill and assented the location of Jogesh Kibiraj. After listening to all this, now they wanted to go to Jogish Kibiraj's house. They wanted to find out the place, make sure of us, and that means make sure of the location. They got the route and address and all of Jogish Kibiraj's house, and after they got the address, they left the place, got inside the car. Aditya was at the wheel, which means this is an idiom. This is a phrase over here. Aditya was at the wheel means he was driving very fast. He expressed the wish to visit his house. Now, the way he was driving, the narrator, he found out that Aditya wanted to visit his ancestral house. But before, when they started their journey, it was not that they wanted to visit the house. They only wanted to have a cup of tea in Nagan Uncle's tea shop. But now, after listening to all some incident and all such stories, Aditya is rushing to his house. Now his friend is asking, so you want to visit your house? That is why you have come to this place, right? Aditya said, it is essential to do so. No, it is not that I wanted to visit, but it has become an essential thing to do because there is a reason. So his nerves seemed overwrought. Overwrought means being upset or nervous. He has become upset now. He is thinking something is running inside his head. So now they have reached the house. After reaching the house, Aditya's friend looking at the house, it has become old. Nobody's staying in that house right now. But he says that even from the ruins, one could easily imagine how grand it must have been once upon a time. Ruins means half standing. Most of the parts of the house and all is broken, it is all destroyed, but that half standing house itself easily says that how grand it must have been when it was brand new or when it was well maintained. So it was such a big house. We entered the building, climbed up the stairs, and reached the attic on the second floor of the house. So this house has two floors. They have gone to the second floor of the house. There was an attic over there. This was my favorite room, said Aditya. The attic has always been a favorite with children. It is in the attic that the child seems to be in a world of its own. A portion of a wall of the attic had crumbled down, and through the window that had been created, we could see the sky, the fields, a part of the rice mill, the spire of the old temple. In the whole house, the attic had probably been the worst hit by wind and weather. They got inside the house, these two men. They're climbing on the stairs. They have reached the attic right now. Attic was in the second floor of the house. Aditya says that this attic was his favorite room because all the children they love to be in the attic. They change that place like a toy house for them. They stay there. They love to spend a lot of time in the attic. So any child would feel that the attic must be their favorite place. But here, this attic has been broken and it is crumbled down. Crumbled means to break apart into small pieces. Can you look at the picture? This is the attic which is crumbled down. It is all broken. It's not clear. It is not clean or it is not perfect. It is all broken. And there was a window. Window is given in a quotation because there wasn't any window. All these crumbled down pieces looks like a window, and through that hole which has become like a big window, through that they could see the sky, the fields, the part of the rice mill, and spire of the old temple. Spire of the old temple means this is the spire of the old temple, the top portion of a temple. Mostly even in the churches you have a sharp portion which is on top of the church, so that is spire. Here the spire of the temple. So only these things were seen over there through that window on the attic. The floor was strewn with twigs and straw and pigeon droppings. Among other things, there was a broken cricket bat, the remains of an armchair, and a wooden packing case. Aditya got on top of the packing case and pushed his hand inside the ventilator, thus upsetting a sparrow's nest, a part of which fell to the ground. However, he heaved a sigh of relief when he had got what he had been looking for. When I asked him what it was, he said, "You will get to know very soon." The stern means untidily scattered. Everything was scattered because no one is maintaining the house, nobody to clean, nobody's living over there. With twigs, twigs mean small sticks with which the birds build their nest. Small sticks. So those twigs and straw, everything was scattered everywhere. Pigeon droppings. So twigs and straws were the nest of pigeons. Pigeons stay in all these abandoned houses, right? So there were twigs and straws and all pigeon droppings were scattered everywhere. It wasn't clean at all. There was a broken cricket bat and remains of an armchair. There was also an armchair which was broken into pieces, and the remains of the armchair was there. Wooden packing case. This is the most important one. There was one wooden packing case. Aditya pushed his hand inside the ventilator where there was a hole through which air comes in. No? So through that ventilator, he put his hand inside. He by the time he pushed his hand inside to take that wooden packing case, he disturbed a sparrow's net, a part of which fell on the ground. However, he heaved a sigh of relief. He took it out and he wanted to open that. When I asked him what it was, he said, "You will get to know very soon." Now, the friend is asking, "Why are you in such a hurry and why are you searching this box? You are disturbing everything and taking the box. What is there inside?" Aditya said, "You will get to know what is inside and why I'm doing all these things. You will come to know everything very soon." When we had finished, Aditya asked, "May we come in?" He turned and faced us. "No one visits me," he said in an unperturbed manner. "Would you mind if we come in?" "Come in." Except for a tarpaulin. There was nothing else to sit on, so we remained standing. "Do you remember Aditya Narayana Chowdhury?" Aditya asked him. Now, straight away, taking something from that wooden box, they're going to a jeweler to find the weight of the article. The jeweler said it was an antique. Antique means and some old jewelry is called as an antique. So their next stop was straight to Jogesh Kabiraj. Though the narrator, the friend, was very curious about what is happening and what is going to happen, he did not ask anything to Aditya because he knows what the answer will be. He already said, right? You will come to know very soon. So the friend who didn't want to disturb Aditya, he stayed quiet. They went inside the room where Sasanka stayed. Sasanka was busy reciting verses from the same Tagore, what he recited previously. So he was reciting the same verse. So when they were waiting for him to finish the recitation, once he finished, they asked, "May we come in?" He turned, looked at them, and said, "Nobody comes to visit me. Who is there coming?" In an unperturbed manner, which means he didn't feel like inviting someone inside because it's been years that nobody has come to visit him. So he was not in a mood to invite anyone, but he said, "Yeah, come in. Would you mind if we come in?" When they asked such a question, he said, "Yes, come in." There wasn't anything, no chair or table or bench to sit for the visitors to sit because nobody comes to visit him. There was only one chapoy. Then nothing else was there, so these two men they kept standing. Now Aditya is asking a question to Sasanka. "Do you remember Aditya Narayana Chowdhury?" "Of course," said the gentleman. "The spoiled child of affluent parents. Was a fairly good student, but could never beat me. He was extremely jealous of me, and he used to tell lies." "I know," said Aditya. He then took out a packet from his pocket and handing it over to him said, "This is for you from Aditya." "What is it?" he asked. "Money? Money? How much money?" 150 rupees. "He has said that he will be happy if you accept it." Shall I laugh or cry? Aditya has given me money? Why this sudden generosity? Man does change with time. Perhaps Aditya is not the same Aditya as before. A change? I got the prize. He could not bear it. He took it from me to show his father and never returned it to me. Said that there was a hole in the pocket and it had fallen through it. "This is the price of the medal. It is yours." Sasanka Sanyal was amazed. He stared at Aditya and said, "The price of the medal? That could not be more than 5 rupees. It was a silver medal. Silver is now 30 times costlier than before." Here happens a beautiful thing. Now Sasanka as invites them inside and Aditya is asking, "Do you know someone named as Aditya Narayana Chaudhary?" And Sasanka said, "Yes, of course. He was a spoiled child of affluent parents." Affluent means wealthy parents. His parents was once zamindars, right? So they were wealthy parents, but he was a spoiled child of wealthy parents. He was fairly good, but here comes another story that he used to say a lot of lies. Aditya used to say a lot of lies. Aditya was jealous of Sasanka because Sasanka used to get first place in everything and Aditya was always in the second. Now Aditya is taking something from his pocket and handed it over to Sasanka. Sasanka is asking, "What is this? Is this money? And why you giving me money? How much is that?" Aditya said it was 150 rupees. Sasanka is surprised. He's asking, "Should I laugh or cry?" Suddenly, how is that all of a sudden he has become so generous? He was the one who stole my medal. He said that he wanted to show the medal to his father. What he took from me, he said, there was a hole in my pocket, and through that hole, the medal fell down, and I've lost the medal. So he never returned it back to me. But now Aditya says sorry. He is sorry for what he has done. Aditya wanted you to have this money. Aditya will be happy if you take this money. That is what Aditya said. The price of the medal. Now Sasanka is asking, no, it was only a silver medal. It could be just 5 rupees, but how? Why are you giving me 150 rupees? Now Aditya said silver. It was a silver medal, right? So silver is now 30 times costlier than before. That is the reason I have given you 150 rupees. Really? I had no news of that. But Sasanka uncle looked at the 15 10 rupee notes in his hand and then looked at Aditya. There was a completely new expression on his face. He said, "Aditya, this smacks too much of charity, doesn't it?" We remained silent, peering intentionally at Aditya. Sasanka Sanyal smiled and said, "I had recognized you at Nagan uncle's tea shop by that mole on your right cheek. I could see you had not recognized me, so I recited the same poem that I had recited on the prize giving day on purpose so that you may remember. Then, when you came to visit me, I couldn't help venting my anger on you." Now, Sasanka got the money. Sasanka is asking, Aditya, I know it is you. What you have done, it smacks too much of charity. Smack means it is a sharp blow or a tap. It is like a blow. It is like a slap for me of too much of charity. What you have done is too much of charity. Charity means to helping someone, the volunteer giving of help without someone asking us or anything. Voluntarily, when you give something, some kind of help, maybe money or food or whatever it is, when you voluntarily feel like giving to someone, helping someone, then that is called as charity. Here it says it this smacks too much of charity. And these two men, they remained silent, peering intentionally at Aditya. Peering means to look very carefully, looking straight into his eyes. Sasanka Sanyal smiled and said, I recognized you when you were there in Agan Uncle's tea shop, but I know that I recognized you by the mole on your right cheek, but I also found out that you did not recognize me. That is why, to make you remember that it was me, to remind you, I sang the same poem, I recited the same poem that I recited on the prize giving day, and it was only for that poem I received this silver medal. So I wanted to remind you. And now, when you came to my house to visit me, I couldn't help venting my anger on you. Venting means that strong emotion. I couldn't help venting my anger on you. You have done the right thing. Your grievance are absolutely justified. But I will be happy if you accept the money, said Aditya. Sasanka Sanyal shook his head and said, no, money will soon be spent. I would have preferred to have the medal if it were possible. I would have forgotten that unpleasant incident of my childhood if I could get the medal back. So, the medal that had been hidden in the attic for 29 long years was eventually returned to its owner. Shriman Sasanka Sanyal, Special Prize for Recitation 1948, was still clearly engraved on it. Here comes the conclusion, the end of the story. Here, Sasanka Sanyal says that even though I was angry on you, this money what you have given to me, I don't want that money because money will be soon spent. I would have been happy if you returned that medal to me, back to me. I would have forgotten that unpleasant incident which made me very upset. I was too upset when I did not get my medal. Now if I would be happy if I could get that medal back. So for 29 long years, the medal which was kept in the attic inside a wooden box is given back to the owner of the medal, Shriman Sasanka Sanyal. Special Prize for Recitation 1948. It was engraved and it is still seen clearly on that silver medal. This is an extract taken from a Bengali story, Chilikota. And that's the end of the story. Listening to the story, if you feel that you have made something wrong and you wanted to pay back or repent for what you have done, see that you do it as soon as possible. Stay happy, stay peaceful, stay healthy. Meet you all in another video. Until then, take care. Bye bye. If you like my video, please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.